Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of Inside the House. Today, we're going to be talking with Maya about innovative advertising. So let me pin this for everyone. And
Boom.
hello.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm behind on my coffee intake, I'm gonna be honest, but uh, feeling good. Feeling pretty good. How about
Okay,
you?
well, you and I can sip coffee together.
Oh, yay. I was like, would it be rude if I like drink coffee during this? But
I mean, you and I both need a lot of coffee to function, so I think we're okay to sip on camera.
hooray.
So hello, why don't you introduce yourself to all of our lovely viewers and tell them a little bit about what your job is at Random House?
Sure. So my name's Maya Battle. I work in advertising and media planning at under the Random House Imprint Group. I've been at the company for like 12 and a half years now, I think. Yeah,
Wow.
like I'm like an old timer. Yeah, no, I started at PRH back in February 2008, so right before everything changed. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm now it's a whole everything now. Um, yeah, a lot of the stuff I do is in support of our books. So, any of our authors who we like to raise their profile with some advertising. I work on some platforms directly. So, I work with Amazon. Our team works with our Facebook social advertising too. A lot of what I do is kind of looking at the audiences that we want to reach, the data that we have on people, about like what people are interested, what they like, what kinds of books are they reading, and then I turn that into an advertising campaign. It's like kind of a magic black box of information to go from information and data on our part, interpretation, and then the material that you guys are all seeing out in the world.
Right. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes to turn into
Yeah.
what everyone else gets to see.
Yes, yeah, it's a lot of work in the back. And feel free to ask any questions about how that process works. This is
Yeah, yeah. We have a question box down at the bottom. So if you have any questions about anything that Maya just said or anything that we talk about going forward, feel free to
Mhm.
submit them and we will answer them.
Yeah.
Um, So you get to do a lot of the cool like behind the scenes stuff where not everyone gets to see all of the fun pieces that you get to put together. So what would you say is your favorite part that someone might not know that you get to do at your job?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think my favorite part, and this is I'm a person who really I love like puzzles. I love trying to figure things out, trying to find like cool solutions for weird problems, and working and publishing it's a strange category to work in. Books are a very unique product, so to see a book go from early conversations when we launch it to a manuscript that I get to read early, to working with our data and analytics teams and ad ops to be able to figure out what the right opportunities are for the book, being able to go from there to like seeing it on a bestseller list or seeing that we're continuing to sell the book really well. It's always like a point of pride for me. I love like seeing my like ads out in the wild. And not everybody can say that, but I think getting to that point where it's a lot of like love and energy that we're putting into a book and then seeing everybody else really love it, that always makes my day.
Yeah, that's always the fun part to see the reception of like how excited we are about things, right? To make
Yeah.
other people as excited as we have been for far too long, and we can't talk about it until it's out in the world.
Yeah, and that's something that people don't necessarily know in too much detail, because it's weird for a lot of people to be like, oh, I heard of this book like when it went on sale, or maybe in publicity, whatever, interviews the author is doing right before a book goes on sale. But we actually start working on books like 2 years in advance, sometimes more depending on what book it is and what needs to go into making it happen. But we read manuscripts so far out, and it's a really cool part of the job, but then it's a double-edged sword because then I can't really talk to people about the book. They're like, I'm really excited for this book, but it's going to be out in 2 years. Like, get ready.
Yep. There are a lot of pros to working in publishing, and one of the cons is that you can't talk about the books all the time.
Oh, especially for the really like newsy stuff that drops in. It's like I get so excited about it, really want to talk to people about it, but then it's like, mum's the word.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so how about you tell us a little bit about how you got started in publishing? Like what drew you to the publishing side of things and how you got your start in your career?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned I started back in 2008. I started in publishing as an intern. So my dad was a graphic designer. We have like a lot of art in our family. I studied a lot of art in high school and college. And, my major is actually human sexuality. So I was looking at biology, psychology, anthropology, and trying to figure out how queer people specifically, but trans people in particular, navigate being in online communities and things like that. So it was a very like niche education. That's the magic and beauty of liberal arts. Uh, and I know a lot of people who work in publishing also enjoyed and basked in that beautiful glow of do whatever you want. Um, and I graduated. I was just kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing at this point. It was a lot. It was a great educational experience. I learned a lot of ins and outs about like how the human mind works. But I started as an intern in the Penguin Art Group, that's under Paul Buckley and Roseanne Sarah, and shout out to them if they're watching. Those guys are great. But I was originally an art intern. I was just archiving book covers and kind of like learning about, what efforts went into doing all of that. I was also doing some freelance office work in a very weird architectural firm. And
Wow.
I was like doing like the most like it was like a Kafka-esque environment of like filing papers and highlighting things and putting them in one place. And I was just kind of like, I need to like figure out what I'm doing. I want to like, working in the art group as an intern was like a taste of working in a creative industry. And with publishing, I actually didn't know anything about the industry to like, and I'm sure people are like, what, like how did you not know about the grand institution of publishing? I didn't know anything. I was just kind of like, this seems like a fun internship. I'm gonna see what happens. I did my first internship, and I believe it was like the winter to spring cohort, and then I ended up working part-time as a temp for the same art department, because my manager actually had gone on maternity leave. So it was a nice little transition of me like having a couple of months to learn about the role, working at the art group, looking at permissions, working with artists, doing a lot of scanning. Invoices are still a big part of what I do, so that will never go away. But yeah, after I finished my second internship, I was talking to a lot of managers and they were just kind of like, well, at the art department, they were like, we really love to have you, but like, there's no opportunity. And I was just kind of like, well, I'm not working right now, really. I want to get out of this weird Kafka world, and, do something I really care about. And I was just kind of like, I kind of love the industry right now. And they found a position for me in advertising. So it wasn't like I was just like, this is my dream, like this is what I really want to do. It was just like kind of like unwrapping little delightful career paths along the way, which I know is very different from a lot of people's trajectory in the industry. But along the way, the entire time I've been there, I've been able to like learn new things, apply them to my job in a new way. And it's always been like a constant, feedback loop of learning something, being more interested, getting involved more. So, while it wasn't formally trained in marketing and digital advertising, a lot of what I learned from psychology and studying how people interact on the internet actually was more useful to me than I really thought it would be. So I got lucky. I had, the psychology background, doing research, figuring out what different groups of people are thinking about. And then I had art. So a lot of those things came together really nicely for me. And I kind of lucked out. I know that's a really unique career path for publishing, but it was just a really good experience to learn about different areas of the industry that I wouldn't have known about otherwise. I think When people think publishing, they think of, editors and talking to authors and working
Mhm.
on manuscripts and all that stuff. But then there's a whole other kind of wonder world of these things that people see, but they don't think about the process of going into that. Like if you see our ads, either on Facebook or Instagram or wherever out in the world, there's a whole team of people who work on writing copy, who look at the data from previous campaigns for similar authors or the same author, people who look at what creative should look like for those different audiences. How do we message the what a book is about in the way that people want to read it? We have our own ideas about what people like internally because we're so close to the material, but we also have to take a step back to kind of look at who we're targeting, how we're reaching them, what message are we giving them to make them move further down the funnel of purchase. But yeah, there's a lot, and then there's also a lot of there's a lot kind of job responsibility forward facing wise, but then kind of looking backward, just kind of the constant education and keeping in track of ad trends. There's a bunch of different publications that I really love that I'm involved in. And there's a bunch of stuff that I do extracurricularly because I'm just a crazy person and I really do I really do love advertising. So I also serve on the NARB, the National Advertising Review Board. And what we are is kind of like ad cops. So when say Verizon has a complaint against Cricket Wireless or something like that, they can come to us. They'll have a higher level appeals process to be able to talk about what messaging was okay, what wasn't, what claims need to be analyzed. So like through that stuff too, I'm learning a lot about the legal issues related to marketing and advertising, what you can and can't say. So it's like, long story short, there's just like so many, places and outlets for information that I'm able to actually use in my job every day, that it's just like, it's to actually have something like be a continuous feedback of growth. It's been really great for me. I feel fortunate.
Yeah, I think we can definitely see that you love puzzles because you have so many different pieces of things that you put together
Yeah.
to create your, daily growth and education in this.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I did not know most of that
Yeah.
about your trajectory. I loved your unwrapping delightful little career paths is like my
Yeah.
favorite phrase. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, mine's a weird one. I recognize that.
It's great though. I feel like that's the one that feels like it was meant to be when you fall into it as opposed to like this
Yeah.
long drawn out process.
Yeah. And it's funny because, one of the other reasons I'm extremely grateful for my job is that, the area that I'm in is very specialized and unique. So I feel like a lot of the times if I'm talking to different people, there's just so many ways that I can easily change what I do to respond to what I see, whatever trends are going on in different areas. So, a lot of initiatives that we have to kind of like look at our lists and be able to, diversify the books that we publish, how we represent them. A lot of all of those little details, it's like we get to work hands on with everything. And I think that's really the coolest part about the industry in general. Whether or not you want to work in editorial or marketing or publicity, it's that hands-on bit that is
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a challenge because you're really busy a lot. But a lot of the other times it's like you love reading, you love working with authors to basically birth their babies to the world. I kind of really think about. I'm not a mom, so sorry, moms out there, but I kind of feel a certain amount of maternal energy around the books that I work on.
Yeah,
Um,
I can definitely see that. That makes sense.
yeah, and
So I've seen a lot of people ask this question in the comments. So now I have to ask you,
oh,
what do you think like the one of the best ad campaigns that you've seen recently, whether you've worked on it or not? What do you think
oh,
is one of the best ones?
that's a really good question. What
Got
are
a
some?
bunch of people asking in the comments before we even
Wow,
got to the question box. So this is one they really want to know the answer to.
in there with the heavy hitters. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely an advertising nerd. I have several books by like David Ogilvy because I'm just like insane. Um, but until recently, I was really happy with the way that, I'm so sorry, I have a really cranky cat. Um, which like if he wants to behave himself, I can show him off. But like, um, I'm a huge fan of Disney.
Hmm.
We work with them. Well, not directly with Disney, but we do publish the Star Wars books. And
Mhm.
I've always been a huge Bob Iger fan. I know that it's like such a weird thing to be fans of a CEO, but like I like genuinely am like a fan of like his career trajectory, like kind of working through the ranks. Like I kind of like think of my career path in a similar way. Um, but the way that they rolled out Disney Plus was so impressive to me. And I partially know about this because we had the Ride of a Lifetime that we published, that was Bob Iger's memoir.
Mhm.
We published that back last year, if I remember correctly, in hardcover. And I was always a big fan. I read the book. He like kind of sets the book up for this next chapter of Disney, and then I started hearing more and more about Disney Plus. And I take a lot of media classes. I'm currently finishing up my MBA. I'll graduate in 2 weeks. It's really crazy.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. I actually know it's 3 weeks because I'll have finals, but I'm just gonna be like last day of class, woohoo! Um, not the other like week or two of like doing my last finals that will inevitably happen. But
right.
anyway, going back to Disney Plus, Baby Yoda. Let's talk about Baby Yoda, because not just because Baby Yoda is adorable, or I mean everybody loves. There's like nothing. Show my feet. Who said that? That is that weird, guys. It's too early to be that weird.
It is. That is true.
Anyway, Baby Yoda, adorable, fan favorite, obviously, but the idea behind like keeping Baby Yoda under wraps until they were, about to release Disney Plus is such a brilliant idea. Um, and then having it be like teased out in short clips, and then the follow-up advertising they did after the Mandalorian like really hit. By the way, guys, if you have not watched the Mandalorian, it is totally worth getting Disney Plus. This is like I'm not being paid for this. uh,
This is not an ad for Disney Plus.
Hashtag not an ad. I feel like this is another story I'll tell in a second, but because I'm just like, all right, whatever for your questions, I'm just going to talk. But the way that they rolled out Disney Plus was so impressive. And,
Mm.
I'm sure like a ton of money went into, the marketing for it, for um, how, they expected people to react to having to sign up for a new subscription service.
Mm.
They were able to get something like, I believe it was 22 million people to join within the first couple of weeks.
Wow.
And I just look at that like, all right, so like, how can we replicate that in our ads? Like, and that's where the puzzle part comes in, because we're not spending Disney money. We're not spending Nike money. We're not spending, the millions and millions of dollars that bigger companies have access to. So now I'm trying to like pick apart, all right, what things did they do right that we can kind of do and replicate on our end, but at a much smaller scale. So like that's kind of where the puzzle part comes in. There's plenty of like information about ad campaigns and all this stuff in trade journals and magazines and things like that. But it's one thing to be able to say like, this is what I like and this is what inspires me, and then have to turn around and say, all right, so I can't do exactly this, but what can I take away from that? And
Right.
that's always fun. That's always really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot of inspiration from Disney.
Not an ad, but watch The Mandalorian is
Yeah,
really what we're saying.
not an ad at all.
Let's see what some of these questions are that people have for you. What inspired you to consider working for the publishing industry? You sort of answered this one, but
Yeah,
is it your love of books? Is it your love of book covers?
yeah. At the time, it was mainly coming from a love of reading. Like I've always really loved reading. When I was a little kid, um like I learned how to read fairly early on. I think I was like maybe around 4 when I can start like first recognizing letters and putting like words together. But um it's always been like a huge thing in my family. Like, books are something that, most people have access to fairly easily. You can go to the library, and it was just like we didn't have much in the way of money, but we had an interest in reading. We can go to the library. There were so many books in my house all the time. My mom would she's like like a crazy fast reader. I don't even understand how, but when I still lived at home, after I came back from college, we would commute in the morning together. So we would get up a little bit early, um, grab a coffee. She would have her Danielle Steele mass market paperback. And it's funny because I work on Danielle Steele advertising now, so it's like all of
Yeah.
that 360 in a lot of ways. But yeah, she would have a brand new paperback, started on the train, read during her workday at some point, I'm assuming, finish it on the sub ride home or the subway ride home, and then
Whoa.
do it all again. Like it was insane. So like after watching my parents, continue as adults to like really love reading and still lean into what they want to read, I was just kind of like, yeah, like how can I not want to work for publishing books? It's just kind of like to me the holy grail of culture and content and things that inspire people, things that inspire TV shows and movies and all this other stuff. A lot of that really comes from that grain of storytelling that is really at the heart of pretty much what everybody does.
Mhm.
Branding is telling a story. Reading a book is is reading somebody else's story. Participating in stuff like this, it's all about storytelling and sharing ideas. So yeah, I mean, that's I don't even remember what that question really originally was, but hopefully that
It was,
answers.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I love that your parents had books all around and you were constantly reading. I think that's something a lot of people who end up in the publishing industry, that's how they were raised.
Yeah.
Let's see if we have some other questions in here. Let's see. Oh, this is a little bit complicated, but maybe we can answer this one. How are you
Ooh.
adjusting to promoting books/authors during these quarantine times?
Ooh, who's that? Who
That
asked
was
that? Uh,
definitely a good question for nowadays.
are these plants? What is this? But uh, yeah, no, it definitely has been different. I'd be lying to say that our industry didn't get a bit of a hit due to, physical bookstores being closed and that kind of, the way that indie booksellers really helped us message books and do that hand sell. Really, working with people, not working with people, but like being able to advise people as they're browsing books and being able to
Mhm.
have that element of discovery, and then have that roll out to people who want to do their book clubs or want to share a book with a friend. We definitely have to think differently about how we advertise, especially given the additional kind of hurdles that we are starting to think about, or not starting to think about, but experiencing and trying to get over in terms of multicultural content marketing and looking at our lists and looking at better ways to support our authors of color. A lot of kind of the way that we're thinking about advertising COVID is leaning way more towards discovery. We want people to know about these books. We want them to talk about them. So the kinds of outlets that we'll focus on are very different. A lot of the times we'll, be able to have a campaign where we show somebody something, give them a little bit of information, and hope that it speaks to them in certain ways. You have more of the visual, the a tagline or some kind of quote or something like that that really draws people in. But then we also have to do the additional work, even more so now, to really be more hands-on with our audiences. So
Mhm.
we do more virtual events like Voila. We do more chats with authors, either through Instagram or through Zoom. We still do like the occasional ticketed event where you can get a book and then hear the author talk about it. But yeah, there's been a lot of growth in that area. So thinking more organically, but having our paid media and advertising piggyback on interactions that people are having with authors and that authors are having with their followers and socials and other conversations they're having. A lot of that feeds in on each other in a way that we're hoping will kind of make up for a lot of that kind of in-person support that our booksellers would be able to do. A lot of them are also still doing a lot through bookshop.org. So for folks who want to still support indies and make sure that your local bookstore is still seeing some of the returns on your your individual book choices, definitely check out bookshop.org. A lot of the times the local bookstores that you already support might be on that website. Definitely check it out. And it's also a good way of supporting POC owned indie bookstores, being able to do a little bit of research on what to read. And it's more of a collaborative thing right now. I think it's us working with all of you guys to really surface what you'd like to read and how we can support you, which is always a beautiful moment.
Yes, it's the favorite part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's one of the good sides, right, of this sort of shift that we've had with COVID is we get to be more direct, like you were saying. There's a more direct, flow between the author or us and the reader. So I think that's something people are excited about, right? That they get to listen to us talk on Instagram weekly.
We act visible before, and now people can't get enough of us.
Yeah, exactly. we're just so high in demand. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Okay, so I think we have a couple of minutes left, and this is my favorite question to ask. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What are some of your favorite books that you have read recently? Give us some book recs that you just think that everyone should read.
Yeah, I was excited for this question. I was just like, oh, we're gonna leave it for the last 3 minutes. Actually, that's good because I would go on forever. Um, as I wind down with school, I've been replacing all of that school reading with, more and more novels. So I've been getting back into reading like 100%, like full force, like I'm back in town. Book, watch out. But I recently read Playing Nice, which comes out later this month. I think it's is it July? I think it's July 21st for the release. Sorry,
I
guys.
think so. Yeah, it's either this week or next
Yeah,
week.
look it up. But it's the premise is so creepy. It's a family is going about their business, taking their kid to school, and then they see this couple with this other woman kind of out of the corner of her eye, kind of standing there. And then later, the guy from the couple knocks on their door and it tells them, "Hey, your son is actually my son, and I have your son. So like, let's talk about this." And I don't want to give away anything about this book because it's almost better if you go in cold and you're just kind of like, I don't know what's going on. But wild. I love JP Delaney's books. They're always just like so like off the chain. So like if I really need, a complete like separation of like what I'm doing now and then something just like really bananas, then JP Delaney is the way to go. Um, Another book I really enjoyed recently. I just finished Artemis, the Andy Weir book.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I don't work on that book, so I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry, guys. If you've read The Martian or you've seen the movie, if you're interested in like hard science fiction, that it's an excellent book to read. It was just kind of like I also like was a chemistry nerd, and when I was doing biology, there's a lot of like little tips and things I used to do in the lab. But to read a book and be like, oh yeah, I remember I remember how vacuums work. Like, let me just like get my old like what was it like I don't even want to know how long ago I graduated college, but anyway, it wasn't that long ago, but long enough for me to not want to know. But yeah, it's kind of like really great to revisit being a nerd, and really loving that again. I know we have like a minute left, so I'm trying to think of one last rec. Oh,
Yeah.
if you guys haven't read this already, R. Eric Thomas's book, Here for It, is excellent.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys subscribe to the Here for It newsletter or read his column on Elle, but a lot. He's just so funny and so heartwarming and really just like amazing, genuine human. I had the great benefit of being able to meet and talk to him virtually for our Afropunk reading book club series that we do with our corporate team, the PRH larger umbrella. And I have never talked to somebody remotely who I just felt like I just knew for my entire life. And like I kind of felt like that when I was reading the book. Like Eric's book is amazing. It's a lot of, just kind of personal stories about, it's a memoir in essays essentially, which I've actually been really enjoying a lot lately as a format. Just because you're able to actually take a lot of these different themes and threads and kind of put them together through the lens of you talking about yourself and where you come from.
Right.
So definitely give that one a whirl. And I also want to give a shout out to Hood Feminism. It is not a Random House book, so not also hashtag not an ad. Uh, but that is published under PRH. But that's a book by Mickey Kendall. She talks about, and she's one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter. So folks interested in the movement or interested in just better ways of being a feminist, being an ally, and really just learning a different perspective about an idea that we all think we know. She was great to talk to. I also got the very undeserved benefit of being able to interview her as part of that series. So that's just a few books. I can recommend like a million more, but those are just a few books that really lifted me up recently.
Yeah, I love that wide selection that you offered up, right? We have science and essays and memoir and feminism, and you're just
There's
all over the place. It's great.
them. And that's the other thing too. It's like if you guys want book recommendations, if you want to like talk to people in the industry directly, this like outlets like this are really cool, I think. Because there's not necessarily a whole lot of visibility for us folks in the background. So yeah, no, thank you guys. It was really
Exactly.
talking to you.
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Thank you so much, Maya. And thank you to everyone that tuned in. And I will talk to you later, Maya.
Yeah, bye. Thanks, Megan.
Bye.